What is up, guys? It is Joe. We're back. We're talking all about the Cats, specifically K-State transfer portal recruiting for the football side of things, as we've got a couple of updates to talk about in today's video. Some good, some bad. I'll be honest about that up front, but I'm excited to talk about the prospects we have today. 3 people to discuss linked to Kansas State in the transfer portal. I'll talk about them a little bit more in depth here in a second, but before I do, first of all, thank you guys for all the support on the transfer portal videos. The offseason is always a tough time to make content, but this type of stuff keeps us going, and I appreciate those who do jump in and support, leave comments, engage with the content. So thank you all for being here and helping me out during these times. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, I make videos about the Cats just about every day, every other day. And it's really a wide range of topics, whether it's basketball, football, any sport, anything going on campus. I've got a lot of K-State content, so be sure and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. And at 3,000 subs, I'm getting a K-State tattoo on the left thigh. But let me jump in right here. We've got a couple of different updates to talk about. The first being Kansas State landing a commitment. That is Purdue wide receiver Jerron Tibbs. Through the transfer portal, a 6'3" bigger body dude. Someone that I'm excited about, definitely. Definitely a situation where some people look at this and say, if this is your only receiver, you're in trouble. Guys, it's not going to be the only receiver. I expect us to add 1 to 2 more. I would assume at least 1 more this window, and then the spring window, leave availability open to see if you can add a receiver or skill position player then. But realistically, I expect 2 more receivers to be pulled into the transfer portal this year alone. Some people look at it and say, well, this is the worst Power 5 team and Power 4 team in college football. And yeah, you agree with that. I also think it's kind of a Paul DeYoung situation where you take a good player from a bad team, put him on a good team, see the level of impact he can have. But 300-plus yards, on pace with Keegan Johnson was our wide receiver 2. At Purdue, he was wide receiver 2 technically, but their tight end was their leading receiver with like 600 yards. But I like the upside there. I think he's a good football player. Fans said he really came on down the stretch, so good things to see in the back half of the season, even with a quarterback like Hudson Card throwing him the rock, and that was only part of the time. They had injuries and issues and inconsistencies galore. This way, he gets a solid quarterback who's established. It will be an exciting addition. It is an exciting addition, I should say there. The bad news, Isaiah Hunter, Kansas State's #1 prospect on the board right now, is off the board, committing to Nebraska, which, whatever, man. I get there's a lot of money. I get the aspect. The recruiting pitch for Nebraska for me has always been a little bit hit or miss because it's like, man, it is so hard to sell people on a team that doesn't win. But then again, you think about it and you're like, well, it's an old age, blue blood, blah, blah, blah. I get you can sell the history, but boy, the current doesn't look so great. That being said, I get it. You got a talented quarterback in Dylan Raiola. You get some stuff. So it sucks, but it is what it is. You got to pivot to the next best dude. And we'll talk about those 3 dudes in today's video. We've got 2 receivers and a safety to talk about. I'm actually re-recording this video. That's why it's later. The first time I recorded this, and Isaiah Hunter wasn't off the board, so then it kind of threw everything off, so I wanted to kind of adjust this video. But we've got 3 prospects to talk about today. The first one I'll talk about, I'm going to go in order of most needed to maybe take a flyer on a dude situation. But the first dude you want to talk about in today's video, FIU's Dean Patterson, a dude set to visit Kansas State this weekend. I think he's on campus right now if you're watching this. I think it was set for Friday, but I could have the date mixed up on that. Patterson was a stud at FIU, spent the last 4 seasons there. As a junior in 2024, Patterson brought in 50 catches for 685 yards and 7 scores. He's 6'2", 202. In his career, he had 98 grabs for 1,406 yards and 8 scores in the year. He formed a dynamic duo alongside Eric Rivers, a guy who's an 1,100-yard receiver, a stud receiver in his own right. But Dean Patterson, absolutely someone you need from an impact standpoint. Get him out there, let him be 1A, 1B with Jace Brown. Have both these dudes with the ability to create separation, bring him into town. This would be a massive add. He's already visited Kansas. He's coming to Kansas State next. I'm sure there's going to be more visits ahead. I hope not, obviously. I wanted to be a Wildcat, but probably going to be a heated-up recruitment for sure. Some of these receivers, like we talked about a little bit the other day, most of the dudes at the top are not necessarily going to Big 12 schools. So when you see teams getting visits from guys like this, it's a big deal. Dean Patterson absolutely is going to be a difference maker somewhere along the way. I would take him in a heartbeat. I'd do double backflips if he comes to Kansas State, so someone to watch in the recruiting class, or in the transfer portal recruiting class, that is. Moving on to a second priority prospect, a guy that I feel really good about. Not a receiver here. We got a safety to discuss. In case you saw it on social media, how about Arizona's Gunnar Maldonado taking a visit to Kansas State? A dude that would be the perfect quintessential free safety replacement for Marquise Siegel, a veteran defensive player on the back end, and a guy who makes a lot of people a lot of money in the secondary, to say the least. Gunnar Maldonado in 2023 was one of the best safeties in the country. MVP of the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma, had 9 tackles, a pick, a forced fumble. He had the lot. He recorded just about everything. He definitely deserved the honor. This season was not the way it should have gone. I mean, he ended up with a season-ending injury, and it was pretty disheartening for sure. 7 tackles and a pick before the season really got brought to a screeching halt for him. But I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at Big 12 Media Days when he went with Arizona this year. Super duper cool dude. Really, really kind guy. Just awesome guy. Talked to him and T-Mac a little bit. Just a really cool guy. One that would fit Kansas State perfectly. Also in the back end, like Chris Kleiman is a secondary type dude at his core. Gunnar Maldonado is the perfect Chris Kleiman type dude. In 2023, I would argue is a top 5 safety in college football. He finished the season with 79 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 interceptions and 1 pass defense. The dude is all over the field and can do whatever you need of him. That's the beauty of this, is he's great in like a rover kind of role where he can go cover wherever his instincts take him, but he's also great when you mash him up in the box as an extra, a down linebacker, so to speak. A guy that can help out and run support, a guy that can jump on the back end and cover well. He is going to be an all-around athlete. I mean, he is an all-around athlete. I shouldn't say he's going to be, but if he comes to Kansas State, that is a massive addition. It sounds like the recruitment mostly is between us and Indiana right now. I don't know what other major powers are going to be there, but definitely a recruitment to watch if you get him to Kansas State. He posted a picture on social media of himself in Aggieville with his dad and someone else, but kind of a cool thing for sure. Someone to watch, a definite prospect at the top of your leaderboards. Like, this is right up there with Dean Patterson. I kind of had them as 1A, 1B of who I wanted to talk about first. Both dudes are priority number 1, so to speak, because you add a dude like this to the secondary. You add a Marquavius Moss, who is committing today, I believe, unless the date moves. That one is up in the air a little bit. I feel good about Kansas State, but we'll see what happens for sure. It sounds like this afternoon he's going to visit, but we'll see if that changes at all. I know the date's kind of been up in the air a little bit, but super quick break. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, 63% of the people watching this video right now are currently not subscribed to the YouTube channel, and feel free absolutely to ignore this and skip this, whatever the case is. But those of you that are watching right now and are unsubscribed, be sure and consider hitting that subscribe button if you love Kansas State, if you appreciate the channel. It's a great way to support me as I continue to grow on this journey, and it's also incredible to bring more K-State fans in like yourself on a consistent basis to see more of my K-State content. Once again, if you're in that 63% or if you're in the alternative in the 37%, I love and appreciate you. Back to the Cats. Definitely a back end you'd love to have. Gunnar Maldonado at free safety, plugging in for Marquise Siegel. Obviously, VJ Payne staying at strong safety. He is a stud of an athlete. Then you get a guy like, then you get Marquavius Moss back there as a jack safety. Even if you want to jump Jaden Rowe into the safety conversation, move some dudes around, realistically, the more I think about it, even though I think he'd probably be best at a jack safety position, Jaden Rowe might stay out there at corner. Then you get Gunnar Maldonado. Then you get Marquavius Moss. It tells us a lot about where the team is looking at these guys at position-wise, but definitely a priority at the top of the board would be an awesome Chris Kleiman addition, just a perfect K-State type guy. Now, the third player we have to talk about in today's video is one of Nick Saban's favorite college players. I mean, a guy that really is an unsung hero of Alabama the last couple seasons. Not in the sense that he's had a ton of impact, but done the nitty-gritty. He's done it on special teams. He's done it, in the return game. He's done a lot of things on special teams, but has upside as a receiver. That player is 6'1" wideout Emmanuel Henderson, a guy who was a running back coming out of high school. And I know that people have been kind of all over the fence because it's like, how do you feel about impact or production versus projection? I've talked about that on the channel. This is one I feel like you take a flyer on. It's an Alabama wideout, a guy that's visiting Kansas State, a guy that's visiting Texas A&M. It sounds like they overjumped UCF in the past weekend, but coming out of high school, listen to these numbers. He was listed as the 41st ranked player in the country, the number 2 running back in the country, and the 2nd ranked player in the state of Alabama, a consensus 4-star. That is a top 40 prospect. He has offers from quite literally everybody, but shortly after getting to college, switches into a receiver-type role instead of a running back. Gabe Brooks, when coming out of high school, had him evaluated as a 2nd to 3rd round pick. Now, that's changed a little bit, obviously, with the position change, but let me read you his write-up because I think it says some good stuff in here. Taller, long-framed running back with lean, athletic build that should foster ample bulk addition in college. 3-sport high school athlete who plays basketball and runs track. He ran an 11.400 as a sophomore, dominant in football and hoops versus small Alabama school competition. He's a longer striding runner who shows good initial burst and downhill juice. Flashes dangerous cutback ability. You love that, especially if you toss him back there in the return game alongside Dylan Edwards on kickoff, or whatever the case is. Will stack cuts on the same run. Always looking for as many extra yards as possible. I know that's been kind of a topic for K-State fans the last couple of years. Find guys that want to compete for those extra 2 or 3 yards. Impressively strings moves together at the 2nd level considering his longer high-cut build. Simultaneously fluid and violent as a runner. Those are sweet adjectives to use there. Displays good core strength and contact balance to extend runs. Finishes runs consistently. He played snaps at running back, receiver, quarterback, and outside linebacker as a junior. That is a well-rounded athlete to say the least. He's a natural pass catcher in limited opportunities. That one is good considering he switched over to receiver. I like that write-up for sure. Adequate top-end speed, but still room to improve. This is years ago. He's a quick dude, to say the least. Potential in that category should be high given frame/gait. Gets bounce happy at times, which is likely, at least in part, due to an individual dominance for small school competition. One of the nation's top backs in the 2022 class and should become a high major impact player with long-term NFL draft early round ceiling. So you see the ability there. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of work and translation to get him to a spot where he can be a wide receiver, be a pass catcher, be out there on the field more. Didn't play a ton. I mean, he had 4 grabs for 80-something yards at Alabama, so not sniffing the field a ton, but he's also competing with dudes that would be one-and-dones if that rule was allowed in college football at the receiver room, so I get that opportunity. But Emmanuel Henderson, even though some people might look at it and say, well, he hasn't done much in college, that's a big-time addition. So consider that one of your top 3 targets as of the point right now. Obviously, there's some conversation with guys like Gabe Powers, Marquavius Moss. Where does everybody stack up? We'll see what the big board looks like here in a couple of days, I assume. But as of now, these are 3 guys to keep on your radar, guys. There'll be more. I'm going to tell you that right now. Don't hit the panic button. Some people people get themselves worked up every single year for the transfer portal stuff, thinking, oh no, we're not moving as fast as I wanted to, or oh no, we're not adding people. We haven't had a max exodus of impact players. I mean, think about that. There's been 2 or 3 guys you're like, dang, that stinks. I would argue maybe just Trey Spivey at the moment, but you just see dudes move all the time. Kansas State's done a good job of retaining Dylan Edwards, retaining Jace Brown. Sometimes the best gets are the ones you have at home. Find good pieces around them for Avery Johnson to utilize. Find me a receiver room that has Dean Patterson, Jace Brown, Emmanuel Henderson, Jerron Tibbs as the top 4 receivers. Give me Dylan Edwards in the backfield. Lincoln Cure as a jumbo wideout. Think about the upside of that squad. That is a beautiful thing to witness this fall, and it will be, and I'm excited to see what happens there. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I apologize for the strange time of upload, but I appreciate all of you for supporting me, and I will talk to you guys soon with more transfer portal updates, I assume. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Go Cats.